Guess we'll find out. Okay. Privacy settings. Activities. Thank you. Not really sure what it's... Oh, okay. Lists of your followers. Thanks. Really needed to know that. Okay, and I've hid all of this stuff. Good. Nobody will know my real name. Okay. Yes, Carl. Okay, people know my first name. When I say, like, don't know my real name, I really just mean, my, like, full name. Because if you know that, then you might figure out where I live. And I really don't want people knocking at my door. The police? Swatting me? People? Wanting to hang out? All of the above. They're all terrifying.
The 100 Knight too.
I don't want to deal with it. Anyway, recording while sick, streaming while sick. Yes, so I play video games for fun. And I also play video games for a living. Which is apparently a serious problem if you're sick. Because what do you do when you're sick? Well, you just kind of sit back, relax, and just have a nice, easy, relaxing time. But I can't do that when playing video games anymore. Like, it actually is almost impossible for me to play a video game quietly and have fun. It like, bugs the hell out of me. Because I need to actually, like... Oh. Press the wrong button. Well, that's okay. I can pretty much just run past everything if I really wanted to. Okay, but I need to talk to enjoy video games anymore. If I'm playing a game silent, it feels really uncomfortable. And, like, I either need to be watching a YouTube video, or, like, rendering a video to not feel like I'm doing nothing with my life. It feels very strange. Did I kill him? I got him. There we go. Let's see, on the topic of people coming to visit me, you think more people would respect my privacy? You think so too, but like, people will freely swat YouTubers, streamers, whatever, just because, you know, I guess it's funny? I've never understood swatting, and like, I don't know how many of you guys know, but the guy that got killed by a swatter a couple months ago, that was, like, 20 miles from here. So I'm, like, especially not interested in risking my location while I live in this specific section of the US. Because, yeah, I don't want to get shot by police while I'm, like, walking to the grocery store. It's all fun and games until somebody gets shot, and then it's a felony. Kinda depends! Unfortunately, oh boy. There we go, problem solved. Okay, there we go. But yeah, unfortunately, the guy that called in the SWAT, I think is only going to prison for, like... I think it was still a felony, but it was, like, definitely not, like, more or less straight-up murder by cop. Because, I mean, a lot of it is, like, it wasn't intentionally getting the guy killed. Ah, it's stupid. That was murder. And, of course, you know, it was just a funny joke. Haha, swatting. Anybody that thinks swatting is funny has no business being on the internet. Did I kill him? Hey! Let's see, wait, there's a way to get GC without eating food? Yeah! Devour! It's called let. I guess it's bloodletting. Is the proper term. Should probably heal, honestly. But yeah, you can get Gigacals back without eating food in this game. They changed how Hollow Knight works, and it's cool. Then you have cops who have to go through life knowing that that was someone's idea of a joke as well. Yep. No, I don't know. The idea of swatting in general just offends and bothers me for what should be really obvious reasons, because, like, that's not a funny prank. It's not a joke. It shouldn't even be used as a tool to get back at people, because that is, like, singularly one of the most risky things you can do to another human being. Because, like, who knows what a cop is going to do? I've known very few cops in my life, and it was a very 50-50 thing. My school resource officer was an awesome dude. He was really nice. And then one year, he decided to, he was, like, heading up some kind of commission or something, but he was effectively busy. And so they replaced him with a new guy, who was mostly a firefighter, but sometimes a, he was mostly a firefighter, but sometimes he was a cop. Ooh. I gotta eat something. Oh. There we go. That's some Giga Cows back. But so they replaced him with a new guy who, I mean, I'm not gonna say like he was a complete hard ass. He definitely had his moments where he was nice. But so I once, it was senior year, like last gym class of high school for me. And it was just a basic, like, exam. The teacher was just kind of like, well, let's just do, like, kind of a basic, like, how many, like, physical educational things can you remember how to do? Archery, frisbee golf, stuff like that. Nothing particularly fancy. One of my classmates showed up hella drunk. And proceeded to start... She passed out. She blacked out. Sorry. Passed out is kind of a light term for what's going on. But so she passes out. And proceeds to start throwing up everywhere and choking on it. So my friend is like, okay, you need to go get the nurse. And so I more or less go sprinting for the front office. I run into the vice principal, who's normally kind of a dick. Nobody liked him. But whatever. And vice principal runs to the gym, and I keep going to the nurse's office to get the nurse, or like have the nurse know that, hey, there's a kid that's probably going to need to go to the hospital or something, because like alcohol poisoning is a serious problem. I had a friend, I mean, kill himself, I guess technically, from alcohol poisoning, but still. But anyway, so I go to the nurse's office, and Officer Hardass is there, and so he starts shouting at me because I'm running in the hall. And it's like, you know, hey, not important right now. I don't care what you have to say. And, you know, he has the gall to block the door to the nurse's office, for, you know, hey, you can't go in here. And I'm like, what are you doing? And eventually the nurse comes out and is like, you know, what's going on? And I'm like, you know, trying to get in word and edgewise, and eventually she hands me the wheelchair. And then, I think, at that point, once the nurse came out, Officer Hardass backed off, because it's like, oh wait, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But I want to say 20 seconds of having a cop actively trying to prevent me from getting a wheelchair, for a fellow student was really strange, and definitely flavored my perception, of him specifically for the rest of, senior year. Up to the point where we had bike day at school. And bike day is super harmless. It's just all the seniors skip school for the day, or at least the beginning of the day, and just bike around town on bikes. And everyone knows it's coming. It's almost scheduled. Like, obviously they don't have straight up like police escorts, but you have to be from out of town to not know it's coming. Because it's in the newspaper and everything. And so... so everybody's just running around, having a good time that day. And this is, like, the second to last day of school, so, like, nobody needed to be in class. Especially not the seniors, who, like, most of them had already finished their finals. Good old Officer Hardass was like, okay, this is a great day to start arresting students for truancy. Please tell me the dumbass cop got fired because that girl could have died. Nope! He stayed. He was still there. I have a lot of stories about Officer Hardass, and none of them are good. Apparently some people liked him, but I never saw any redeeming features from the guy. So I think he arrested about 12 students in one day. And eventually the principal was just like, no, let them go. Like, I'm not keeping these students in my office while you try and figure out some kind of punishment for them. And so Officer Hardass let the students go. But it was, you know, a couple hours, and it was supposed to, I don't know, teach them a lesson. Which, if you're gonna teach students a lesson, make sure you've got the administration on your back, otherwise you just look like an asshole. But so, yeah, that was fun. And the last story I have from Officer Hardass was, so I went back to visit my high school a couple of years after I graduated because, I was close to a number of the teachers, from my senior year program, especially because, you know, I spent a lot of time with them. They gave me my, my college recommendations and stuff. My poor AP Chem teacher loved me. I had no interest in AP Chem, but he was the nicest person ever. And so he wrote me such a glowing review for an art school. But so I was just going back to visit them, my little brother, so on and so forth. I have the, you know, I have the guest pass, to, you know, go in and say, like, yeah, I'm not just some creeper that's gone into a high school, to do bad things. Officer Hardass catches me in the hall. We've met, we've spoken before. I was part of the anti-bullying team, at my high school for at least a little while from the previous guy, and so I was part of the transition group-ish, for when the new cop... Ow. Holy shit, that does damage. Oh. Yeah, don't get hit with magic while you've got this thing. It is death. Okay. But anyway, so he's seen me before. He probably should know who I am, or at least recognize my face. He has the gall to accost me in the hallway and accuse me of making a fake guest pass for a high school I used to go to. Mind you, I was wearing a class of '09 shirt, and this is 2010, or something like that. And so, like, I very clearly have been to this high school at some point. I'm very clearly, like, a college student just kind of hanging out. And he just stops me in the hall, and he's like, you know, give me your pass. And I'm like, it's stuck to my shirt. Like, I don't want to really take it off. And he's like, no. Give it to me. I need to make sure it's not fake. And I'm like, what? Why? And so eventually it was one of those where I was just like, look, we're right outside the art office. How about we go in, and I say hi to the art teacher, and she can tell you whether or not I used to be a student here. And immediately she just walks out and is like, oh, hey, Carl, and I'm like, see? And it just, something about this man, he wanted to be an authoritarian, but was in the absolute wrong school for it. The worst my school ever did was take a soccer goal and put it on the roof of not the gym, the music hall, which is right next to the soccer field. I don't know how the seniors got it up there, but they did. That's like literally the worst thing anybody ever did in that school, apart from, you know, I guess overdose on things, but pretty low crime. And so, I don't know what his problem was. I don't know if he's still there. I hope not. Those poor students. Because, like, this is, you know, super upper middle class high school. Nothing ever goes on in town. The only crime was a failed bank robbery from a couple of people from way out of town. Does that just last until I take a hit? It probably does. Can I eat the golem? I can. I think the cop hated me. No, he hated everybody. Also, holy shit, that golem is worth like 30. I'm also like, I want to say I'm a very non-hateable person. I have become more contentious with age because I stopped being patient for people, or for people with people, because of stuff like this. Because it's just like, I don't want to deal with other people's, like, weird internalized personal problems. I don't want to hear about, like, oh, I see, that's the healing button I'm pressing. I don't want to deal with the fact that somebody has issues with authority. I already have enough! So if you want to start, like, being the issue of authority, I'm gonna have problems. I don't do shit. So if that cop hated everyone, he shouldn't be working as a cop. Yeah, for some reason the police department in my town, I think it's because nothing ever happened. They probably just kind of got used to being able to do whatever they want. Because, like, you know, if you're in a town where, like, nothing happens, you don't really have to worry about working. So you can just kind of do whatever. So anytime you have to do work, it's a problem. Probably. So, my mother actually has a lot of, I'm gonna say anti-cop stories, but they're mostly just, she's in Massachusetts, and so I don't know how much you guys have heard of Massachusetts traffic or whatever. It's pretty bad. Apparently the drivers in California and a couple other states are worse, but I'm never quite sure about that. The people in California drive like maniacs, but they don't aggressively try and run over pedestrians, which is something I've only ever seen happen in Massachusetts. Or drunk people, anywhere, which I'm not really sure how that counts. But, so, my mother specifically bikes to work. She's super environmentally conscious and whatnot, and doesn't enjoy, driving that much. I mean, she'll drive. She's fine with driving, but she is so stingy, the idea of paying for gas consistently for a commute offends her, so she takes public transportation. Or, she takes public transportation, or she bikes, or hell, she would probably walk first, if the alternative had to be driving. I don't think she's ever driven into work. And she's been working at her current job for, jeez, like 5 years now or something like that. I'm really level 16 already. But so, at some point, the cops in Massachusetts decided, I guess, to start doing, like, enforcing the biking regulations, which is, like, specifically no biking on crosswalks. Effectively, like, half of them would behave like you have to behave like a pedestrian at all times outside of designated zones, and then the other half are like, you are a non-motorized vehicle and have to behave exactly like a car. And so, she will have one cop be like, yeah, you know, this isn't a problem, just do whatever. And then the next day, his, like, replacement, effectively, will say, no, you can't do this thing that this other cop just told you about. And if you do so, I will arrest you. And it's just like, you know, whoa, hey. This other guy was just like, yeah, you can do this. And he's like, doesn't matter. Is super hard-ass about it. And just... I always feel a bit weird about my authority issues. Because, you know, it makes me feel guilty that I'm somehow perpetuating a problem. And then I hear, like, my mother complaining about it, and I'm like, well, never mind. I guess this is normal, or hereditary. But yeah, my first experience biking in Massachusetts, it was kind of one of my first experiences, period, in Massachusetts, because the first thing we did when we moved there was my parents were like, let's go biking and walking everywhere, and I'm like, we just got here, can I have a break? Okay, damn it! But so my first experience, more or less, was a guy in a big black SUV swerving to aim his SUV directly at me on the road, and I was just like, you know, of course I freak out and more or less toss myself onto the sidewalk, and he just barely avoids clipping my bike, and I'm just like, whoa, I don't like being here. And my mother's like, oh yeah, that happens, and I'm like, what do you mean that happens? And then pretty much my parents would refuse to take me anywhere unless it was biking related or if I had a guest. It was kind of a godsend having Shell around post-college when I was still living with my parents, because she came to stay with us for the last summer. And my parents, since Shell didn't have a functional bike and we live on a mountain, my parents are like, alright, fine, we can drive. And I was like, yes, thank you. Please. Exercise is good, but also exercise is really scary when the drivers are assholes. I just want to live in a city where cars are illegal. Damn it. That would be lovely. How many times have I almost gotten run over? After that, I pretty much stay away from cars, so I didn't get run over much. My dad has gotten hit by several cars. My mother has gotten hit by several cars. Usually it's to the point of, you know, wrecking their bikes. But there have definitely been days where my one or both of my parents would give me a call and be like, yeah, I have bike problems. I'm like, you know what happened? Car hit the bike, or bike fell apart. It's just like, oh, okay. But no, I have mostly avoided cars. Okay, no, I have been hit by a car before, but this is a separate, ish thing. It always makes me feel a bit, racist, but I worked at a grocery store. I hate telling this story, especially because I think one of the first people I ever told it to was, Bird and Ladybird, and, Ladybird is, Indian. But so I used to work at a grocery store, and I'd push carts. I was a cart monkey. And so I'd take all the carts from the enclosure and bring them back into the building. And I don't know if it was, like, the location or the prices or maybe something there. Oh, good cutscenes. Let's hope we don't immediately have a cutscene. We're gonna immediately have...
Manania,
never mind.
I'll rip you to shreds!
Okay, I'm gonna finish the story because I'm probably gonna forget it. But effectively, there was like a larger than normal Indian population there. I don't know if it was them, if it was Boston, or if it was what. But specifically, there were, I want to say, 5 different guys that I would see routinely, like every single day. And they always drove like maniacs. And I could remember them because they, you know, had the mustache and whatever. They looked kind of straight out of a Bollywood action film, the way they drove. And I got hit by 3 out of 5 of them. Usually it wasn't me, it was my stack of carts. But I'd be pushing the carts and one of them would just whip around a corner and smash into all of them. And I'm like, hi! I was here, and then they get really mad at me. And, you know, be in the way. They get mad at me for being in the way, and then I'd have to go get the manager, and the manager would deal with it. And, you know, of course, I'm not liable because I'm just doing my job. But one guy specifically did hit me, which was I was pushing a cart back from an area. I looked at him. He looked me in the eye. And then he just accelerated, and I went over onto his hood, and then he got out and started yelling at me, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he had the thickest accents. I didn't even know what he was saying. So, me just being slightly battered, I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just going back in. And then, I went back in, and then just went back to work. And of course, you know, he was back the next day that I was working. I was just like, why did these people not realize that they are terrible? I don't know. Drivers scare me. Anyway, back to not telling weird stories that make me sound like kind of a bad person, maybe.
Stop it! You're under mind control. Please, come to your senses. How could this happen? Lady Sophie. Is anyone reading me? If you're still sane, get a message through to HQ. Isabel's third eye isn't a part of this world. It can't be blinded. And even when her eye is closed, we can't stop her magic. The mission has failed.
But I guess just to finish that story off, I felt really bad telling that story to Bird and Ladybird because I was trying to emulate a really thick Indian accent to Ladybird, and I suddenly realized just how bad it sounded. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I mean, it could have been anybody or anybody's accent, but I'm doing the worst thing right now. That's why I don't like telling the story. It just, I just wish people drove like normal people. Make me so much happier. What am I even doing in here? I have no idea. Isabel is attacking, so I tried to escape into the forest, but there's bugs in there. I can feel them sucking out my energy when they bite me. Inside the town it says, Isabel, outside is bugs. I'm gonna die in here. Let's see. And the question is, why didn't you sue him? Suing somebody for non-injuries is really difficult. At most, I had, like, a light bruise. It's very, very difficult to sue somebody when you're not actually hurt. The witch Manania calls all manner of insects to itself and uses them as pawns. If you don't intervene, more bugs will come. It would be nice if we could gather them all in one spot and get rid of them all at once. My daughter! You, please, call the My daughter's been attacked by a Manania. She'll die if we don't do something. Let's see, is this the same village as the beginning? Yes, which is very confusing. I guess there is a wall, now that I'm looking at it. It was kind of hard to see. The wall looked a lot closer earlier. The inside of the house was burned and blackened. It seems like no one's lived here for a while. That would be, that's Milm's house, probably. Oh, do we have shops? No, maybe not. They just look different. Damn it. What's the Weisse Ritter thinking? Turning this town into a battlefield. How many more attacks do we have to fight off? How long do we have to keep living like this? Soldiers that have seen Isabel's third eye have either gone insane and killed each other or else died from the poison. Isabel's eyes should have been blocked by the flash firefly, but when it looked this way, her eye... Okay, do we have any others? The mayor. I know I don't have to go in here and talk to these people, but I kind of want to. We built this wall to protect the town from Isabel's poison, but now it's turned this town into a cage. We will be destroyed soon. Stranger, please, you must get help. Even though you look like a weird demon creature. Seriously, we were like super racist earlier. Well, sort of. We're against witches. You look like a witch familiar, but you're okay, I guess.